Hey Jack, welcome to New Orleans, man. Would you just start off by telling a little bit about you and then how this came together?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jack Stoll. Went to college at Nebraska. As far as my years in the NFL, I spent the past 3.5 years in Philly. Spent last offseason with the New York Giants and finished the year with Miami. So it was a wild year last year to say the least. And I'm hoping that coming to New Orleans will be a little more stable. And looking forward to coming down there. It's been awesome just in the time I spent there, so I couldn't be more excited.
So being in Philadelphia, you probably had a little bit of connection there with Kellen Moore. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who he is as a coach and kind of what you're expecting, fired up about him?
Yeah, absolutely. Kellen was an unbelievable guy. I got to work with him for about 2.5 months last year. He's one of those guys who, number one, he cares about his players. He's always going to put them in the right position, and he'll do everything he can to make sure that all the players are successful, which I think in turn leads to a team being successful in an offense. So he's a guy who he's a brilliant offensive mind. And, one thing I got to give to him is, especially just being in Philadelphia, is just seeing how he adapted his offense to the personnel that they had in Philly. And that's something that I thought was phenomenal. He had his system that he had with, Dallas, with LA. And then when he took it to Philly, he really saw the personnel and adjusted his system accordingly to make it successful. And I think that that's something that's very difficult to do. And, I got to give him all the credit in the world because obviously it worked out pretty well for him. So, he's an unbelievable guy to work with and, work for. So I'm really pumped to be back with him and can't wait to get things going down there in New Orleans.
What is that like instability? Like when you go through a year like you did last year, where you're switching teams, what is that like as an NFL player, and how did you handle
It's just part of the NFL. I think a majority of people at some point will go through some version of that. And, I think some of it just ended up being, some things just didn't work out. And it's just really just persevering at the end of the day. Listen, we get to go play a game for a living. That's something that's awesome. And, I never take for granted. So regardless where I'm at, if that means moving 3 places in one year, I'm willing to do it. Obviously, you don't want to do that. And, my goal this year is to be in New Orleans for, all the whole 12 months. That's my biggest goal. And, hopefully farther than that and on. But, it's you get to play a game for a living, and that's awesome. And so, there is some instability with there. It's tough logistically when you're moving, trying to figure out a place to stay for a couple months here, there. But listen, at the end of the day, it's all worth it. Like I said, we play a game for a living. And as long as I'm keeping cleats on my feet, I'll be a happy guy.
it? And what were your takeaways of just kind of how Kellen likes to use tight ends in his offense?
I think the way he uses tight ends, I think number one, like I said earlier, he does a great job of seeing the personnel that he has and adjusting to it. I think he uses tight ends in a multitude of ways. You look at who he had in LA, who he's had in Dallas, and he does a good job of getting them involved in the pass game, in the run game. And, I think he just does a good job of implementing the players that he has with the system that he wants wherever he's at. And so, I'll be interested to see how that shakes out in New Orleans. But I know one thing's for certain, if you look at his track record, he's always used a couple tight ends out there, in the game plan, which is, obviously it's a tight end is something you love to see. So I'll be curious to see how everything shapes up. But I know there will definitely be some tight ends in the game plan, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Jack, you came into the league as undrafted free agent. What was your mindset at that time? And here you are throughout the years here getting ready, for the Saints. How did you keep that mindset to keep on, competing in the NFL?
Well, I think one unique thing with my situation was, I ended up getting a knee injury my senior season. My last college football season was the whole COVID season, and unfortunately, week one I went out there against Ohio State, caught a ball over the middle, and then ended up having to get surgery on my knee. And so, it wasn't the most fortunate way to end my college football career. So my big mindset coming into the NFL was, making sure teams know that my knee's healthy, and I tried everything I could to prove it. So but that kind of lit a fuel in me, and has kept me hungry throughout the years, and just reminds me that I have just that much more to prove being an undrafted guy, and that's just the reality of the situation. Is if you're drafted, that means a team believes in you enough. To come out and do things on the football field. So, being undrafted, it just shows me every single year I got to go out there and prove myself just that much more. And, it's made me hungrier throughout my career. So I think it's a blessing at the end of the day. And, I couldn't be more happier and prouder to say I'm an undrafted guy who's, still making it in the league and looking forward to the years to come.
Hey, Jack, hopefully a fun one